Hi, and welcome to Mom Talk. I'm Jen.
I'm Tanya.
And this is episode 7.
It's crazy to think of.
We're almost to double digits.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's true.
Thank you for hanging out with us each week. We enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. It's been good. It's been interesting and good. Yeah. So what are you drinking? You're like almost done.
I am almost done mine. I am drinking a decaf.
Do you remember?
Maple Madness type.
Oh, how is it?
Thing. Good. I like it.
Yeah.
I thought, well, March is over, but we could still do Maple Madness today.
Why not?
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking vanilla hazelnut, or as I said upstairs, Vensnazel nut. Just wanted to shorten that, and I think that could really take off. Vanazal nut, except it sounds nasally.
Is it any good?
Oh, sorry, now okay. It's good. It's good.
That's good. I've been really enjoying all these decaf flavored coffees.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad. Okay, so I have a video for you, and so I'm really hoping you haven't seen it. I just have to find it. Just a second. Don't look.
So far, every video that they have picked to show me, I've actually already seen.
Except she was faking it. I didn't know she had faking
it. I just wasn't reacting. I wasn't going, oh yeah, I've seen this.
Okay, are you ready?
All right, yeah.
Okay. Oh, we forgot our headphones.
That's okay.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Ah! What is it? What is it? What is it?
Turn around.
What is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? What is it?
Panics.
Is she going into labor?
I think she's... Did you see at the end there? The little girl came up beside her and she's like, ah! She's like... So what is your immediate reaction to that?
Well, my first thought while I'm watching her freak out is that James is terrified of bugs, the poor kid, and that would totally be him just screaming and get it off me.
Yeah. It's our friend Amanda always says, and I've kind of adopted this with our kids, is they'll be going all crazy about something. I'm like, okay, so panic. And that's the thought that came to mind with that is okay, panic, there's something on you. And she's even in her pants, going, just her logic is gone. And then I love at the end, it's just that short little clip of the girl coming up behind her, and then she's like, ah! Again. It's well, let's panic, and then we'll address something. It's so funny. I'm glad that we found a video that you had.
Yes, that was a good one. I like that.
Good.
I like that. So, I have a topic.
Yes.
And it's something I'm wondering if other people struggle with in their parenting. And that is, probably the number one piece of advice that I have received as a parent is to be consistent, to make rules and to follow through, to say what you mean and to mean what you say.
Yeah.
And first of all, I have ADHD, so I struggle in this area to follow through and whatnot. But in addition to that, I have always struggled because I feel like it's important that we model God's grace and that we model showing grace to our kids.
Right.
And so there's this whole struggle of when do I need to be consistent and follow through and hand out the punishment or the consequence, and when do I say, I love you, we're going to move on, it's not a big deal. And I don't know, have you found that difficult?
Yes, definitely. I think most recently thinking of more my reaction and then trying to take a step back and then see what's actually going on here. So for me, I think like still having that consequence as consistent. So Micah and Cadence had gotten to an argument downstairs. I was getting ready, didn't know what was happening, so I called them both up, sent them to their rooms, and they're in there for about 10 minutes. And I was upset. Like, I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but their response to each other, I couldn't think in my head of any reason why they were yelling at each other the way they were and saying unkind things. And so immediately I was just like, I wanted to go in there like firm, like this, heavy-handed, whatever, right? Yeah. And then I took a step back and talked with Micah, and something in me when I went to Cadence, and I wish I remember what it was about. But I was like, okay, so what's going on? And then just like taking that time to listen to her, which I try to do, but it doesn't always come out, right? So to listen to her, and then I was like, okay, I understand her perspective. I think it was impulse. So I think it was like Micah was doing something and she just was taking over. She wanted to help and just take over. And then he ended up like putting his hand out, and she took that like he punched her, but he was trying to like just like, no, like I want my space.
Yep.
And so we had a conversation of Micah, like we need to give sister lots of verbal warnings and stuff like that, and to remind her. And so it was like trying to see, okay, this is something that we're giving her tools to control, but she doesn't always have control over. So just having some grace with that.
And that I find that hard as well, that like both like the older two kids have ADHD, right? And so it's like
the balance of
because
holding them accountable for their actions, but then also having grace of what's in their control and what's not.
Yeah, parenting is so hard, and I feel like I've always thought of myself as a fairly intelligent, logical, like for the most part in control person, but then like parenting just becomes this like huge whirlwind of trying to navigate, and it's just very interesting because like I definitely want to be consistent. I want to be. I want to be able to follow through, and I do like try to, like you were saying, like take a moment for myself before I start handing things out. Okay, let me think or whatever. But then like sometimes I offer grace, and I'm like, man, did I just like totally mess up?
Undermined my own rules.
Yes.
And it's hard. It's very hard. Yeah.
It's hard, but yet something I feel like it's really important, because I think that we're seeing more and more in culture that when you make a mistake, you're now like rejected, and that's it. There's no more hope. We have to like not watch your television show, or we have to throw your books out, or whatever.
Yeah, there's kind of that erase of you because you've made a mistake or something like that. And
yes, and I just think that it's so important that our kids don't feel like that if they make a mistake that they're just going to be thrown out and useless and not valuable anymore, because that's certainly not the example that we see in the Bible of like God's grace, and he time and time again like just,
and there's consequences for behavior and actions, but it doesn't devalue you as a person. And when you've made a mistake, what big or small, whatever, like
there's redemption,
and it doesn't devalue even like the good you've done or whatever, right? Like there's so I totally get that. I think we
all make mistakes, right?
Yep. Big, small, and everywhere in between. So
anyway, so if you struggled with having compassion or being consistent or both, let us know. Do you have any tips or tricks? Because I certainly am lost and trying to figure it out each and every day. And
one thing too that I find helpful that we try to do is when there is a consequence, we try to give two options and let them pick a consequence. And for me, that's showing some grace, because it's making me take a step and being like, okay, so I'm giving you some control over this. There is going to be a consequence. You can pick. And not always does that happen, but like I feel like we do that when we've both come to an understanding, or like Brian and I and Cadence, or Brian and I and Micah, and they've helped us work through it, but they still need a consequence for their behavior. So we'll give them a choice. So that just happened the other day where we said to Cadence, okay, you can go to bed half an hour early, or you can have your Chromebook, the last Sunday actually, or no Chromebook for like the afternoon, evening, or whatever. And so she picked no Chromebook, and so that she could stay up. And so I feel like that's helpful too, to show some grace, like we're respecting you and you can have a choice. I don't know.
That's interesting.
But yeah. So you had a picture that you had shown me, which I thought was funny. And it was like if you are feeling sad or down to do these things, right?
Yes. And so...
Not that I ever feel sad or down or struggle with depression or anything like that.
Never.
And I don't know, it's hard because you get these tips or like funny things, but then when you're actually sad, you're like, no, I won't do that. But it's still maybe like the in between the like, ha, and the I'm getting there. Okay, so tell me.
So
and I'm going to do them.
The first one is whisper, beep, boop to yourself and repeat until you're not sad.
I've heard half the list. I haven't heard the whole thing, but it still makes me laugh. So like, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop.
Doesn't take long, does it? Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop.
Also, it sounds like pee poop, so there you go. I'm in.
All right, the next one is to plug your nose and say sneep, snop.
Sneep, snop. Now I feel snotty again.
You gotta keep your nose plugged, because now you're gonna say
sneep, snop.
Boop-de-boop.
Boop-de-boop. I hope people are trying this.
You have to say that one in a really deep voice. So plug your nose.
And
say boop de boop in a
really What was it?
Boop de boop in a deep voice.
Okay, what was the first one though?
Sneep snop.
Sneep snop. Boop de doop. Well, boop de boop. I don't have a good memory.
And then the last one is you have to say bubbles while your nose is plugged.
What is with the nose plug?
In the angriest voice you can.
What was it? Bubbles?
Bubbles.
Bubbles! Was that it?
Yeah, that's the list.
Oh.
It certainly made you laugh.
Yes. And laughing is like one of my favorite things to do.
I really like to laugh.
Did you know that? Speaking of that, so I have some embarrassing stuff that happens to me.
No! Never.
And the thing that my husband does not understand is that as these embarrassing things are happening to me, I automatically think of people I want to tell that I know would find it funny. Because if I have something really embarrassing and I can make others laugh, even if I look like an idiot or whatever, if I can make them laugh about it, about my embarrassment, it somehow like makes me feel better that it happened. So,
I get
right?
that, yeah.
Okay. So, there's so many, like, just like my wedding night, I fell off the bed and it just wasn't very gracious and it's bad. I love telling couples when they're first getting married that story because I'm like, okay, you think your wedding night was awkward or whatever, just remember what happened on mine. And maybe it will make you feel better. Then there was, I love this one, that Cadence, I was pregnant with her, and I was on the table, and I ended up peeing on the doctor's table, as well as farting, and so I basically Dutch ovened the doctor, as well as peeing on their table. And I'm like, and Brian's just like shaking his head, and we go out into the thing, and I'm like, Mom, I just peed on the table. And he's like, how can you find this funny? I'm like, and in my head, I'm also thinking, this is like a sitcom. Like, this could be on Friends. Like, this is like a sitcom. Most recently, this past week, my husband and I were home, and the kids were at school, and he was down in the basement, and I messaged him a very flirtatious message while also inviting him upstairs to have some adult time. Then I was sitting there wondering why he was not coming upstairs. And I look at my phone. And my mother-in-law has the exact same initials as my husband. And I realized that I had invited my mother-in-law to my bedroom. I had messaged my mother-in-law that. So I FaceTimed my husband, who was in the basement, laughing. Yes, embarrassed. But, like, I was like, Brian, I just sent a really inappropriate message and I sent it to your mom and not you, and I was wondering why you weren't coming upstairs. And oh.
Did he find it funny?
He, at the start, he was like, I got nothing. Like, he was like, but yeah. And then I was like, the invitation's still open. But, yeah, that was slightly embarrassing. And we actually had a shower to go to that night, and I was and my mother-in-law was there too, and I love my mother-in-law very much, but I was still a little bit embarrassed and was having a hard time, like, making eye contact. Then I felt bad, so the next morning I messaged and said, okay, so I'll try not to send you any more inappropriate or flirting messages today. And she responded so sweetly and lovely and was like, LOL, you made this old lady laugh really hard and that kind of stuff. So it was very sweet. But yeah, has that ever happened to you where you've messaged somebody you haven't meant to? Probably not.
I have sent text messages to people who I didn't mean to, but never to that caliber.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be more things like, I remember, I think I texted, like, I don't know, like, one of my colleagues, like, when are you coming home?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because, you know, like, how sometimes, like, the message pops up at the top of your phone, and you can, like, hit reply, but then you're, like, already in a text message, and, yeah.
So the thing, too, is that this happened once before, but it was, like, kind of like, hey, love you, whatever, but it wasn't quite like this. It's also almost happened where it was kind of like this, but I was just about to hit send and realized that it was not my husband. The day after that happened, I went to send Brian a message, not anything, like just a regular old message, and I almost hit it to Bev again. Brian was like, well, why don't we change it to a picture of me instead of my initials? So that is what we have now, which is really good.
And now you need a picture of your mother-in-law.
I need a picture of her because it's still their initial, and I still want to, like, hit it, especially if I recently messaged her. I remember, too, Brian talking on the phone with the dentist, and I was sitting right there, and I think, like, he was talking, and then I said something to him, and then he's like, okay, bye, love you. And then he hung up, and I was like, I thought that was really funny.
What's worse, I've never done this, but I am terrified of it, is that my husband and his father have the same name, first and last name. So, like, whenever I go to send, like, my husband a message, I will, like, before I hit send, I will, like, double check that the phone number's right.
Of you.
Plus,
you're trying to put that in my face that, oh, see, I know how to do this.
I'm terrified.
Yeah.
I'm terrified that I'm going to send my father-in-law.
Well, and you send so many inappropriate messages.
But I just, like, anyways.
Oh.
I don't want to make that mistake.
Which I get. I wonder if other people have had things where they've sent it to the wrong person. I know there has to be people. There's not just me.
I'm sure it's...
So, like, let us know, because that would be really funny. Or, like, you've said something to someone and you're like, oh, that wasn't supposed to be, like...
Not for you!
Right? It's like...
Sorry!
Yeah. It's like when you were in school and you called your teacher mom.
Yes!
Right? Like, it's... Except mine was a little bit worse than that. Messaging my mother-in-law, but... It's fine. It's fine. So, yeah. That's our week.
So, I'm going to work this week on being consistent.
Yes. And next week we need to do a report on the behavior modification stuff.
Yes. I did make, like, I wrote out, like, on a card some, like, how to clean the kitchen and how to clean the living room, and that was really helpful over March break.
Like a
chore card.
Okay.
And I assigned each one of the big kids a room, and then they just went down the list.
Yeah,
One, turn off TV.
Right? Yeah, step by step. I really like that you realized, like, versus sending them both into the living room to clean the living room, to split one into one room and one into the other.
Yeah.
I think that's a really wise
And I
decision.
gave them choice.
Yes, good.
I gave my oldest, which room would you like?
Yep.
And So,
very good. That's awesome.
anyways, yes, we will have an update with more stuff.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, thank you for joining us today. Make sure you like or subscribe. We've been told that by your husband. He said you need to do that. So we're like, okay.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, and be sure to comment. Let us know any thoughts or opinions you have. If you've sent inappropriate text messages to your mother by accident, we'd love to hear from you. Could be on a sitcom someday. I don't know.
See you later.
Bye.